Hey everyone, welcome to the We Are Pool Players podcast. I'm your co-host Greg Plester.
Here with Eric Horlifson.
And every couple weeks we're going to release this podcast, something for all you pool players out there to listen to and on your drive home, or while you're putting around the house, or even plug in while you're playing pool. It's just going to be the two of us. Sometimes we'll have special guests, but for the most part, just a couple guys shooting the breeze and having a chat about the world of cue sports. So typically we're going to start with recap. So today we're going to be going over the Michael Montgomery Memorial, and then we'll get into kind of a topic. And we've got a big topic today, and a little overdue, I think. But the Matchroom announcement, which is massive for this game, for cue sports, for us, for the players. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit. So hang with us and enjoy the rest of the podcast. All right, so let's get into this the memorial event. Let's get over a bit of a recap of this. I'll tell you right now, what an amazing event to be at. Like, it looked amazing. Everybody was there.
Yeah, so it was a tournament in Fresno, Texas. There was a one pocket tournament and two tournaments on bar tables. The races were pretty short on the bar table. I think there were 7 on the winner's side for 9-ball and 6 on the loser's side, and 10-ball might have been 8 and 7. But it was a really good turnout. You had Orcolo, DeLuna, Gorst, Van Boning.
Yeah, everybody was there.
Yeah, well, 15 players that
North America anyway. There was a few, right, who, overseas type players who are here in the state or in the States playing, but yeah, all the big guns were out for it. And let's see, it started with a one pocket, right? And the winner, who just seems to be winning everything, was Dennis, right?
Yeah, so it seems like if Alex is not there, Dennis seems to be kind of second in row for one pocket tournaments anyways. Yeah. Tony's kind of making a case for getting back somewhere near the top 3. He actually he had an action match with Billy Thorpe. Big money, like $30,000 each side, and he beat him 7-1. And I want to say he gave him a ball as well. I'm not positive on that one, but I think he did.
I mean, Billy's a great player, right? He's a fantastic player. I mean, Derby Bank champion, and I'm not sure if he gave him a ball, but I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah,
like even seems tough. Yeah,
I think so. I think you're talking about Thorpe somewhere in the top 10, and and Chohan somewhere in the top 5. But and that's just one set, but it is showing that Tony's kind of getting back into it a little more.
Yeah, good for him.
And able to pull off a pretty convincing win with big money on the line in that spot.
Yeah, good.
He's actually playing Chip Compton this week as well, and he is giving him a ball for sure.
Really,
so it shows where those guys think he's at. Anyways.
Yeah, that'll be a good match to watch for sure. Is it? Do we know if it's streaming anywhere? Or it'll probably just pop up on Facebook or something somewhere.
No, so I saw something weird. I think Tony runs this raffling group, and I think he might be streaming it exclusively to his raffling group or something odd like that.
Oh, I see.
I guess he's not too worried about the exposure for the stream. Yeah. They're just there to gamble, and I think it's some kind of limited release on that one. But if you look around, it might be in other spots as well.
Yeah, it'll pop up. The good for Tony, and then so Dennis wins first place, and then they get into the 10-ball mini, right? 16 entry 10-ball mini.
Yep.
And Orcolo wins again.
Yeah, and Shane won the winner's side in that one, and Dennis came back and beat him twice in the final. And the second set was actually Hill.
Oh, heartbreaker, eh? Hills are heartbreakers.
So, and it seems like lately Dennis has Shane's number a little more, just a little more. Yeah, can't say it's any kind of overrun or anything like that, but I think he's getting back to like 50%, right?
And do you think that stems from that big long race a while back?
Right. So, like in the last year and a half, they've had or maybe call it 2 years. They've had two. Shane beat him 180 going to 100, and then Dennis beat him 120 to 119 going to 120. You remember that one, right? It was,
Yeah.
Race to 120, hill, like
crazy. Like how?
Yeah.
How, right? And then they got into, I think it was a 120 a 128 board, wasn't it? It was
at
128
least 96. Yeah, at least
ball.
96. It might have been 128. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of players in the 9-ball. Yeah.
And Van Boney wins.
Yeah. So that one
him.
was one on the spot, no breaking rules. So basically you're seeing the most offensive pool game you can ever see. You know what I mean? It's
Nice.
like we're talking over 50% break-in runs for the best players, right?
Yeah.
I didn't buy the stream myself, but I peeked in and I got some info from some people that did buy it, and there was different breaks being used. I mean, Shane Winters was going with the real soft one, where the one just trickles over to the side pocket, and you just shoot it in the side that it sometimes pockets in if you hit it harder.
Yeah.
I saw Skylar kind of going a little in from the rail, trying to make the one come like straight back to the corner pocket from like near the edge of the box, right?
Yeah.
Like it would in 10-ball.
Yeah.
So, what the level that the best players in that tournament are breaking at, like the corner ball, they're using magic racks too, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So the corner ball's dead wired, and they're just trying to hit their best break where they can get a shot on the one.
That's right.
I was curious to hear how Shane was actually hitting it. And, Shane's really good at figuring out those set breaks. That's one of his strengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he gets in spots where the balls are breaking similarly, well, not only that he thinks about it in a way where he's trying to figure it out, he's actually able to duplicate his break in a way where things happen similarly as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of terms are an edge for him, and I'm not surprised he did well. I mean, he won the tournament, right? So
yeah, it was he wins the tournament. What was I think it was Shane, then Sky, Fedor, and then a notable Shane Winters. Hell of a tournament. I guess like most of us pool players, working man stroke. But he gets fourth. Took down some big names. Beat Orcolo 6-4 on the B side. He beat Double D. Beat James 7-3. He had some really good matches.
For sure. So he's always a threat on the bar table. Has been for a long time.
Yes, player. Absolutely. Yeah. So good for him. That's definitely nice. And a couple heartbreak matches for Canada's Johnny Mora, a couple hill nail biters, and he beat a couple monsters too. So I mean, he's a monster himself, right? But it was, it was neat to see some of the brackets, see some of the matches. And I mean, a lot of it I think could go either way, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's the biggest tournament since the pandemic happened in the U.S. since the pandemic happened.
Yeah,
they were all about 8,000 first prize in the tournament and around 10,000 first prize in the Calcutta. The 9-ball Calcutta got higher. I want to say it was closer to 20,000.
Yeah, that's
So good. I mean, good tournament. You can't ask for much more than that. 8,000 first prize tournaments is pretty good.
Yeah, in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So, so good for Shane. And then finally the ladies event, Christina, who was there with Fedor. She wins that. She loses. What was it, first or second round? Loses first or second round. Goes through the B side.
I think I think she came back.
Yeah, she won like 7 in a row or 6 or something like that. So good for her. That's great. She's going to be. I'm assuming she already is.
Yeah, I'm assuming the women's tournament was on the bar table too. I think she would have been a pretty strong class of the field if it was on the 9-foot. Yeah, but she still got it done on the bar table. I'm not actually sure who beat her, but it's a tough win regardless. So
so that's good. Hopefully we get some more some more big events coming soon. A lot of it, like, a lot of what we're seeing right now in the last year anyway, it's just been, a lot of the action, right? So a lot of action matches, a few tournaments here and there, but that I think this is definitely the biggest one thus far. And but yeah, a lot of action matches, streaming, and then like the streaming tournaments, right? The online streaming tournaments, that's almost a separate podcast. Like, does that have a future in our game, or is that just right here, right now, right? Because, and not to get on, to get too deep into it or unpack it too much, but anyone who watched the World Streaming Association or whatever, watched these events, like, they were really good. Like, they were well produced. They had great stats and data on the page. The commentary was pretty tight. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah,
but it was virtual. So
right. The best one was the Predator 1 pool.
Yeah.
They've done two pretty big tournaments, and I feel like they were around 5,000 first prize.
Yeah.
But what you have to remember in these tournaments is that there's no expenses for the players, right?
Yeah.
So, especially for players on minimal sponsorship or not backed by their government, I think it's a great chance for them to, get out and just try and compete with the best.
I mean, there's a lot of spinning plates behind, reasons why maybe it wouldn't have a future. I think one of the biggest ones is equipment, right? Like, possibly different, not sizes, but possibly different tables, pocket sizes, balls, cloth. I mean, you're not playing on the same, right? So, I think that's what really kind of holds it back. A little bit, right? And not to mention,
you're not playing an opponent, obviously.
Yeah,
too,
and you're
right?
not, and you're not. The biggest one is definitely you're just not playing an opponent in that space. But that aside, I think the fact that the equipment isn't potentially consistent. I think that might be a bit of a hurdle too. So, but you will see, right? We'll see what happens. I mean, not to dive into COVID too much, but I mean, vaccines apparently on their way. Like, we'll see what this year brings. Like, this year will be an interesting year for everyone, even, outside of pool. So, let's see how this plays out, right? But
yeah, well, I mean, and this is what we're going to talk about next. And it seems like Matchroom is confident that, things will be fairly open within a few months, or that they can execute international invite tournaments over the next year, because they did release their schedule. I think you have it in front of you. Maybe you can list it off exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I mean, that definitely gets into our, it's a good segue to get into our conversation of the podcast, and that's the announcement, right? The announcement of Matchroom hosting committed to 5 events. Excuse me. Committed to 5 events. So there's the Champions League pool, then there's the World Pool Masters, the World Pool Championship, World Cup of Pool, and then what they did last year there with the U.S. Open Pool Championship. So you would have to think, like, I believe they all these events lead into Moscone, but finally some structure. I mean, the WPA kind of had a bit of a run for a while, but I don't hear anything about them anymore, and I haven't for quite a while. And it's just, with Matchroom, they have so many historical wins in different sports, second tier, we'll call it, sports. How can you not be excited for this announcement? Like, it's fantastic for what we do.
Yeah, well, for me, what it seems like what's going to happen with the WPA now is that they're just going to sanction Matchroom events and they're going to sanction international Matchroom events, which they've always done, but more in a capacity where they're not actually involved with the promotion of it and the organization of it, and they're just going to pass it off to professional promoters who can actually put the game on TV and who actually turn a profit for themselves and build a tournament where the prize money is going to grow, right? So that's just not something that ever happened with the WPA, and I don't know if it's something that ever really people thought that they should have been doing that, but it's not really their thing. They're not professional promoters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, 10-year lull of, I mean, what they did basically was they went out to countries and they got money from the government and they created a prize fund that was like below. We have to be honest, it was below average, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but those events were never going to grow. Matchroom events can grow into internationally televised tournaments. I really believe that. Maybe not
Yeah.
next. Maybe it might take a few years, but
Well,
that's
they
where the
have.
game needs to be, right?
Well,
So
they have partnered with Dazen, but more importantly, they have partnered. Like Matchroom has a relationship with Sky Sports, right?
sure,
Over in Europe. I don't think they've penned anything with ESPN or TSN in Canada or anything, but the fact that they're with Sky Sports, that's a start. And I mean, if they can get the viewership, everybody else will fall in line, right? I mean, look
exactly.
what they've done for darts and so on. But even on Sky Sports, that's a major platform, and we'll start seeing more of that on social media and different digital venues, so that at the end of the day, the game grows, right? And that's what we need, right? We need to have that kind of professional, kind of leadership, and Matchroom has that, and they've proven that with those second tier sports. This is so exciting. It's such great news.
Yeah.
So the Championship Pool League is first, March 22nd, March 29th. I don't think they have venues for these yet, and I would imagine it's because of travel restrictions, right? They're not sure yet. They probably have, isolated a few spots of like, okay, let's have it, in North America, it'll be in Vegas. In the UK, it'll be in, say, London. Like they probably have a few spots where as soon as they figure out, where the travel restrictions are, what they're going to look like, then they'll announce the venues. So they're probably ready to announce a venue, but they're waiting for these travel restrictions. That's my best guess. I don't think that's, and I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, and the reality is, like, they're announcing it as a finished schedule, but the reality is it's a tentative schedule. We have to see where what's happening with the virus 3 months from
Absolutely.
now, right? So
Yeah.
I would probably see them going along the line, just announcing the venues like 6 weeks before or something. It's unfortunate for players that are making plans, but it's just the way things are going to have to operate for the next year.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the schedule, it's aggressive. Like it's aggressive. Like let's put the virus aside. Let's say travel restrictions are not there and everything's open. March. So the end of March is the Champions League, and then April 6th to 9th. So basically the first week, World Pool Masters. The next week, the World Pool Championships. Then sometime in the summer, obviously they don't have a date yet, for the World Cup of Pool, and then sometime in the fall, the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
So, and then Moscone is always, around November, December, but this one they've announced for like the first weekend of December. It's funny looking at this, right? Champions League Pool, World Pool Masters, Championship, so on. It's such a reflection of what happened in snooker, right? The Snooker Champions League, who Kieran, I think, just won that one, World Pool right? So, and then why not, right? Why wouldn't you just mimic that and grow from there when you know it works in another cue sport?
Oh, definitely. They have a blueprint for how to grow things. There's no doubt. I mean, they've done it in snooker for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But I think, something to notice is that there's 2 first-time tournaments on the schedule this year. There's the World Pool Championship, and let's call it like the U.S. Open's only happened once.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they've added 3 tournaments in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? So that means there's more tournaments. The prize money in the Moscone Cup has gone up. I guess, who knows what will happen with what they believe they can make with the COVID situation. But I would have liked to have seen if the prize money in the U.S. Open went up this year. I would have totally assumed it would have.
Yeah.
It still might. There's no saying that it won't.
Yeah.
But as long as you're seeing stuff like that with adding more events, new events, and the prize money going up, what else do you want? The game's going in the right direction, right?
That's right.
So
I mean, there's so many things. I think there's so many things. Get your thoughts on this. There's so many things outside of just hosting events. Like, right out of the gates, 5 events by a premium kind of organization, Matchrooms. That's great. That's a great start. But it also brings some legitimacy to the game once we start seeing this on Sky Sports and other social outlets, digital outlets, and it brings legitimacy to the game. And because at the end of the day, I think we can all agree we need that to continue to funnel players in, right?
For sure,
because every major sport, legitimate major sport, has junior programs, right? Like you grow within the sport. Every golf, basketball, hockey, football, like everyone's playing these games at a young age. They're growing, they're developing, and there's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of kids, and then there's teens, and they're all playing and they're all growing, and then finally a few of them, they get into that kind of pro level, and then they're a professional player where how many kids you see in the pool room, like, you know what I mean? Like, you
not
just
in
don't
North
see
America, that's for sure.
Yeah. I
think
mean,
Europe would be the middle ground, and Asia would be the higher ground of what they're doing in the junior programs. But in North America, I mean, I don't think the game's going to die over here just because young kids aren't playing, but it's definitely an important part of it, no question. You got
because now you have so now you have these kids picking up cues, picking up our game in North America at 15 to 17, playing decent, 16 to or 17 to 20, playing a little bit better. They're just starting later. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's junior players out there, right? Look at Shane started as a kid. Like, there's junior players out there, but they're just few and far between compared to the rest. The other major players in Q sports in the world, right?
Sure.
So, are we going to get? If the other countries have all these junior players, and 10% of them can get to a pro level, and 5% of them get to a global pro level, and there's a few hundred, where if we have like 10, like what's that? We get one pro
becomes one.
Right? So, the odds, right? You got to play the odds here. And I think to bring it back, having these events, kind of trying to take some of the stigma out of it, we can develop a better and a stronger junior program, or at least some sort of tiered system, excuse me, that can bring us more players, right?
Definitely.
I mean, that's definitely another podcast. I'll tell you that. I mean, I think we all have about a million ideas how we can, tier our system a little bit more for development, right? Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Pool probably has the most amateurs per player, right? Playing out of any sport. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's an amateur, right? But really good.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the game's tough to perfect, but you could say the same about golf, right? I mean, there's a ton of amateur golfers, and there's the pro ranks of golf are still very well supported.
That's right.
I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I know that the participation levels in pool is very high. Like, I want to go out on a limb and say it's in like the top 5 sports in North American sports as far as participation levels.
Yeah.
But the pro game is like non-existent. So
yeah. Well, and hopefully this brings a little bit of that, right? Because having these events too, I hope they didn't announce any of this, but I would imagine that there are going to be some sort of qualifying opportunity, maybe not in these right now, but at some point, because again, you have to, we have to have that tier. It can't be the same group all the time. We do need to give other players, that exposure and that opportunity to to compete, right? So kind of like Moscone, where Chris played, right? Chris Robinson played. You know, what that does to a player like him, like his mental game, playing anyone, that it's huge, right? Like that helps. Like whenever you play in a higher tiered tournament and do, you know, okay, or even what you learn and I don't know, it kind of shaves a little bit of the nerves or the silliness of it as you continue to play, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's just desensitizing you to the highest levels
That's
of
the word.
competition, right?
That's the word.
And
Desensitize.
yeah, and the more you do that, the more you become comfortable in every situation,
Yeah,
and that's when you become a world class player, right?
that's right. That's right. So right? Surround yourself, right? So you know,
Sure.
you're only surround yourself with great players. You'll become a great player, right?
And that that works on every single level too. It's not saying that everyone's going to get to the Moscone Cup, but it is saying that okay, well you're just a league player and you don't perform well in playoffs because you've only played in a playoff type situation like once or twice in your life. Well, I'll tell you what, unless you're actually just not a strong competitor, which can happen and that's fine. But once you've been in a playoff situation 5 times, you're going to be stronger by the sixth time you're there compared to the first or second time you're there.
Yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
are you comfortable winning a $300 first prize tournament? Are you comfortable winning $1,000 first prize tournament or a $5,000 first prize tournament? You know what I mean? It's all
Yeah.
different levels of different players, but yeah, just getting into spots that are challenging your boundaries, and then feeling more comfortable in those spots as time goes on. For sure.
Yeah, the key word there that you nailed it was the desensitize, right? To desensitize yourself of like, oh, I'm in this event, or oh, I'm playing this big match, or it's kind of like playing a money match, right? Like you're playing some guy for a few $100, and it's the first time you've ever played, right? For kind of that money. There's a lot of players, not everybody, but there's a lot of players who who think of that in the back of their mind. It's not top of mind per se, but it's there somewhere. But if they continue to play those $300 matches where that's just what they play for, they end up feeling like a $20 match. Like that's just what you do, right? And it's totally different game. Totally different game.
I think one last thing we'll touch on is Johnny Archer's opening a pool room. He's set the opening date at May 1st. Good for him. He's owned pool rooms for the last 15 years. As far as I know, they've always been successful. He's going to take another shot at it. It's going to be in Georgia, where most of his pool rooms usually are. The one thing I noticed, though, is that he talked about going with all Brunswick pool tables. He's more of an old school guy. He likes Brunswick. I actually happen to like Brunswick myself.
Yeah, so do I.
I think they're on the same level as Diamond. But I noticed that he was talking about Brunswick 7-foots in the pool room as well. And I figured, okay, well, they're just going to make him a 7-foot model, or I'm sure they do have a 7-foot model. They just don't push it very much.
Mm-hmm.
But what it actually is a 7-foot coin-op model.
Yeah.
So, like something that you could use in leagues. I think, stuff like this is kind of big news for me because, like, if you notice little things about how many different ball sets there are now, and, Brunswick, it's not like a cheap bar table. They're calling it a Brunswick Gold Crown bar table. So basically, if you're unfamiliar with that, it means like their highest model of technology put into their tables, right? Any kind of Gold Crown table is their highest. So what it's saying to me, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too far ahead, but maybe they're going to take a shot at incorporating their tables into pool league play.
Yeah.
Right?
And it would make sense.
Yeah.
It would make sense. I mean, it's funny. And again, we keep prefacing, next podcast, but, a definite topic of discussion is the consistency of to standardize, rather, I guess would be better, standardizing the equipment we play on, right? So, it's when you play on certain felt, certain tables, Diamond 3.5, Black Crown, Gold Crowns, different speeds, balls, like And now there's with these coin op, bar box, Brunswick Gold Crowns, now there's another major contender in the
you're
game.
bringing a whole new element into bar table pool for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Diamond and Valley and Dynamo are the only brands, and Dynamo's it's not very common. It's mostly Valleys and Diamonds. So,
bringing back a little bit of the Matchroom announcement too, though, is so like all those events are going to be played on 4.5 by 9s, and especially down the States, 3.5 by 7, regardless of the type of table, but the size 3.5 by 7s are very dominant down there, especially through the leagues. We all know, and I'm sure we can all agree, that a good jump tier is league players, top league players, flirting with pro tour events. I mean, that's not a far stretch to think that, we should be developing a lot of, say, not the strongest pros, but that to get to that next level should be from all these top league players, because I mean, they're very good. They've proven to be good. But now they're coming off 3.5 by 7 tables.
Sure.
And those are different games. They're different games. So you've got this just animal of a player on a 3.5 by 7 bar box. He or she is going to be in tough to beat an average just amateur player on a 4.5 by 9. Like
totally.
You just are. So how, and again, that's another podcast, right? Like how do we standardize this tiered system? So now the gold crowns are here, and as you were saying, let's throw it out there. Let's say they become because Valley's with APA. So let's say they become TAP or BCA, whatever. They become the league table for another major league out there. Well, I don't know. Like, I feel that pulls us backwards. It's almost like,
oh, I know.
One step ahead, 2 steps back again.
Oh, I know. But that's just reality of the American pool scene, right?
Sure.
I mean, you have to hope that those players that come up through, say, call it a bar table system or whatever, just venture over to the 9-foots and play more on the 9-foots and maybe forget the bar tables. Do you know what I mean? But I get it. It's like you're starting players out on a different table than they'd actually be competing on in the future. Like bar tables don't exist in the Philippines. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
They just don't have them, and they're very uncommon in Europe.
Yeah.
So
because any bar size table in Europe, it's black and yellow. It's a totally different game, right?
Sure. Yeah. And that's only in the UK, really.
Yeah.
And
but you know what though? Like let's throw a bone here, right? Like let's extend an olive branch too. If you've got a few players who are strong 7s or whatever in their leagues on their bar box tables, they've got to know to incorporate 4.5 by 9 play. You know what I mean? Like they know, right? They know they have to play more in a 4.5 by 9. Like if they've got a big event, coming up on 4.5 by 9s, they'll practice on those tables. Like they know that, but it still doesn't change the fact that they've got more hours logged on a 3.5 by 7, right? So,
right, yeah,
which might benefit them in the States.
There's all different kinds of pool games. Yeah. Talking about the Chinese and the Taiwanese playing a lot of Chinese 8-ball now, right? So, it's all
tough game
for sure.
Yeah,
compared to bar table pool.
No, right? You can't even shoot rail shots. So I mean, So anyway, but I mean, at the end of the day, because we're going to wrap this up, is Matchroom announcement is a huge announcement. So exciting to finally get some structure. And the best part about the structure is, there's nothing wishy-washy about it either. Like,
oh, sure.
you know what I mean? Like,
they're going to do.
Yeah. Like the integrity's there. Like Matchroom is not about failing, right? Yeah. They are about growth. All the other second tier sports that they've gotten involved in prove that. So they're going places. We're going to go with them. But there's definitely some catch up that we need to do as pool players in the rooms with the leagues, right? With the consistency of, to grow, the tier system, whatever. There's definitely things that we need to do to own our game, right?
So I wonder if at some point then that the consistency just becomes whatever Matchroom is using.
Oh, I think
right?
it will.
Yeah, like whatever balls Matchroom uses, that's going to be the most common balls you see in pool rooms. And the tables is a little tricky, but
sure.
For sure with consistency with the balls, I want to see that. It's nice to see companies taking a shot at reinventing the color scheme, which I actually totally believe
looks so good. Some of them sets look so good.
There was just too many dark colors in the traditional colors. So I think, taking a shot at kind of switching the colors around a little bit is better for TV. But, you're looking at now you have at least 5 major, let's call them major different types of balls.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
It does, absolutely. The way they move it, and it's like, it's marginal, but it adds up. It adds up fast. At the end of the day, any kind of ball you shoot straight in the pocket, sure, but they move differently, right? And in these longer races, it matters, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the big announcement, and it's fantastic. Everyone's super pumped for it. So can't wait until they announce the venue. I would imagine we'll be able to talk more about the venue, at least touch on it on the next podcast that we'll have in a couple of weeks. But for now, I think we're gonna probably sign off and thank everyone for tuning in. And you can reach us on the links. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a quick review, quick thumbs up or a quick star review. Any kind of comments, we appreciate it. We can reach more pool players. And if you have any topics, by all means, send us a message and we'll cover everything we can. So I'm Greg Plester, and I'm going to sign off. And Eric?
Okay, guys, till next time. Nice to talk with you today.
And we'll talk soon. Take care.